Good evening, detectives. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Moonstone Murders Live. Well, live-ish. For those who haven't met me, I'm Inspector Jonathan Rutherford, and I'll be helping you in this evening's investigation where it's quite literally someone is dressed to kill. For anyone who lives for the latest fashion trends, London Fashion Week is the pinnacle in their calendar of the UK, and this year it's expected to serve glitz and glamour bigger than ever before. As well, for anyone who doesn't know, renowned designer Pierre Couture is rumoured to be unveiling his first collection in 6 years following his unexpected disappearance from the industry. Now, the stage is set, the catwalk is mounted, and the queues of paparazzi are lining themselves up down the Strand. Yet, the night before his runway looks are revealed, it seems that Pierre Couture's collection has been disappeared, and even worse, Pierre Couture himself has been found murdered in his study of the 180 Strand. With such a high-profile victim, of course, none other than myself has been drafted in to see if I can solve this investigation before one of our suspects walks their final catwalk. So there we are, that's our story for this evening, and we have our deceased, none other than renowned designer Pierre Couture. But like every week, I am not alone. This week, I have a lovely guest detective on screen. I have joining me D.I. Lapworth. D.I. Lapworth, how are you doing this evening?
I'm okay. Quite warm, but okay.
I know the feeling. Wearing a suit jacket was a terrible idea this evening, but we're rolling with it anyway. Hopefully Fabian's fan can cool us down from above and below.
Fabian.
Sorry, Fabian. So, D.I. Lapworth, as I ask detectives every week, if you could just let our detectives at home know a little bit more about yourselves and your previous sleuthing skills.
Previously, I've got a lot of experience, actually. I've watched Poirot, Midsomer Murders, The Mousetrap. I've read Inspector Calls. So pretty much, I'm on my A game.
So you're well educated in the world of super sleuthing, then?
I would say so.
You're a few steps ahead of me on that one. I did try and watch The Mousetrap, but nothing really happened. It just sat there with a piece of cheese on it. So, a terrible joke. Sorry, they do get better for people who are joining us for the first time this evening. For people who are returning to us this evening, don't tell them, it only gets worse from here. So, alongside that, it's not just myself and D.I. Lapworth watching this evening. As well, we have our suspicious suspects on screen. So these are the 4 people. One of them could be behind the murder of Pierre Couture and the stealing of his collection, or maybe 2 of them, who knows. So, suspects, if you'd be so kind, if you could introduce yourselves and the relationship to the deceased.
My name is Fabian Zaine, and I was Pierre Couture's lead runway model.
That's not entirely true, but Inspector, I'm Bryony, and I was Pierre's assistant and, sometimes stylist.
My name is Christian Cole, and I'm a fellow fashion designer.
And I'm Karen Clapp, 2 Ps, and I'm head of security.
And a background member of the Men in Black, apparently. So those are your suspects for this evening. As always, well, thank you. Oh, thank you very much, there for your donation. That brings me on quite nicely. For anyone watching tonight, it is completely free to solve along with us. However, donations are kindly accepted. 80% is split between the performers, but 20% goes towards our charity of the week. And this week, we are raising money for the Wessex Cancer Trust, and which has been selected by D.I. Lapworth. D.I. Lapworth, if you could just quickly let us know a little bit more about the charity of the week.
Sure. So Wessex Cancer Trust help out people who are affected by cancer in whatever form. So it could be people who have cancer or families. So they provide counsellors, they can provide therapies, exercises, regardless of the age, gender, type of cancer, whatever it is, they'll provide help and assistance totally for free. And they've actually, since lockdown began, still been able to help people as much as possible. They've got a total of 1,600 people total helped throughout lockdown, but they still are raising money as well.
Absolutely fantastic cause, and hopefully some of our detectives will be able to help get a little bit of money to them this evening. But for now, I think it's time that we get going with this case. So just to check before we do, D.I. Lapworth, do you have a pen and paper at the ready?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Detectives at home, do you have a pen and paper at the ready? No. One day I'll be able to hear someone respond to that. So away we go. So, like I said, our deceased this evening is renowned fashion designer Pierre Couture. He was discovered in his studio upstairs at 180 Strand this morning with a time of death believed to be between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. last night. He's been stabbed in the back with a pair of fabric scissors and has fallen back onto a corset made out of disinfectant wipes, which then hit the wall behind him, and he was covering him in various rolls of fabric. He was, as said, he was discovered this morning, however, by a staff member of the local Cafe Cortado, who was delivering Pierre's fresh espresso for the last 6 weeks. His alibi for yesterday evening was confirmed, so it's not the coffee deliverer. Now, the way Pierre fell into the corset, however, I'm afraid it wiped all of the fingerprints clean off the fabric scissors, so we haven't got any of the forensics to go off on this one. As for the CCTV, now, we would have access to the tapes, and I had a quick look at the access to the tapes between the time of death. However, they've been reset between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. last night. So we have everything prior to 10 p.m. and everything after 1 a.m. But those 3 hours seem to have disappeared, which is why the head of security has been brought in as a subject of interest. So this evening, I'm looking for who you believe killed Pierre Couture and as well who stole Pierre's collection. It could be one person who did both. It could be 2, 3, hedge your bet, sail 4. Could be a little bit of who knows on that one. David Mears, what are the odds? I know, it's such 1 week I'll get fingerprints. 1 week, I promise you. But for now, the way that will work is we have 4 suspects that we need to question. So we'll find out their backstories and their alibis, and then I'll have our guest detective on screen take questions, and you at home watching, you have the comment section. The comment section is your friend, which you can see quite a few people are using. So if you have questions for the suspect that we're questioning, you can type them into the comment section and I'll relay them. But it's not down to me who we question and, well, what order we go in. So D.I. Lapworth, it's over to you. Who would you like for me to question first? Who's looking the most fishy to you?
Bryony.
Bryony's looking...
Well, that's the rudest thing I've ever heard.
Yes, well, you are looking... Well, it's a rather fishy response on that one. So, Bryony Hughes, the assistant to Pierre Couture.
Correct.
Yes. What was it like working with Pierre? I mean, I don't know much about the fashion world, but a name like that must be fantastic on your CV.
Oh, Inspector, don't worry. I wouldn't expect you to know anything about the fashion world. But you are right. Having Pierre's name on my CV is invaluable. The job itself was less favourable. I mean, I can't speak for his previous assistants, but if you ask me, if Pierre was asked to describe the assistant's role, I imagine it would be giving them pointless exercises, like, I don't know, polishing 2,000 coat hangers, or having to read him letters because the man's gone half blind, or even worse, my favourite, when he made me carry a half-ton barista machine up a flight of stairs, all because, God forbid, he'd want a coffee after 10 p.m. when the coffee shop's closed. But yes,
Well,
it's not exactly the learning on the job I had in mind.
maybe it's all these inane jobs which makes Bryony badmouth her boss and take it out on us humble runway models. I mean, if she just listened to us, she'll hear we're not complaining at all. We're just saying that the fabric that we're being made to wear is uncomfortable and made of poor material, and as a professional, she should have the eyes to see that's true.
Fabian, how dare you? How dare you say this material is cheap? I'm sorry, but do you know what, Fabian? I actually know exactly what you are. You're a jumped up little pretty boy, aren't you? That's exactly what you are. Do you know what? I would happen to know where good fabric comes from, because it comes from my mother's haberdashery in Soho. So, if I were you, I would hold your tongue. You know, you should be grateful that Pierre hired you. No other designer in London wants to come near you with a 10-foot barge pole after the incident in Milan.
Well, that escalated rather quickly, didn't it?
Sorry, Inspector.
Yes,
Sorry for Fabian there.
I feel we've picked
Jonathan.
we've picked the most dramatic of the suspect lineups to kick us off. But you mentioned about your mother's shop in Soho. So your mother's haberdashery, is it the sole supplier to Pierre Couture?
Yes, you're correct. It is the sole supplier. However, we do also deal with other designers, and we are in high demand on London Fashion Week.
Can I just say, Inspector,
Yes.
you know, I really don't like to speak ill of a family business, especially a local family business, you know. As a fashion designer myself, I always feel it's important to source locally, and we do actually source from Bryony's family shop. But I have to say, in all honesty, the quality of the material we've been receiving in our own studio has been hit and miss, shall we say, over the last few weeks. It's been hit and miss. I'm sorry, Bryony. It's the truth.
Bring it up now, Christian. Thank you for bringing it up now.
If it helps the investigation, I don't know if it does or not.
No, it helps. Please continue.
Like, for example, just the other week we ordered some corduroy, a few rolls of that for the fashion week next week. But when it arrived, it seemed perfectly fine. On the order, it looked perfectly fine. But honestly, once Bryony had unpackaged the thing, the whole delivery just fell apart in our hands. However, I can confirm one thing. I will confirm one thing that Bryony said is absolutely true. Yes, Fabian is a jumped up pretty boy. That is true. That is 100% true.
At least you agree with me with
that. Thank you for confirming the essential facts there of the previous statement. Yes. Okay, so previous supply and seems to you cover a few other people as well. So I'm guessing though, as you were his assistant, you guys worked in quite close proximity together.
Correct.
This disappearance. So he disappeared out of nowhere for 6 years, and then all of a sudden came back. Did he ever mention to you when you were working together where he went or why he disappeared?
No, Inspector, but speculation was rife, and where there is speculation, there is always Christian. So to name but a few rumours that went around the mill, there was the rumour that said that Pierre was scared that he was losing his top spot as, the designer in the fashion world. And then there was the rumour that Christian and him were secret lovers. I'll make no comment. And then, of course, there was the favourite rumour of mine that he was into some kind of Mai Tai Ponzi scheme in Honolulu. But of course, you can see that these are all just whipped up in a frenzy rumours.
Yes.
The truth is, Inspector, he didn't speak about the past. And all he did say was that he had a moment of inspiration, and then the whole collection came to him, and he had to unveil it straight away, because God forbid anyone would steal his moment.
Okay. So pretty much you got nothing out of him. So we just have to go off all of the very contradictory media statements there.
Exactly, Inspector. I was only with him for a year. So.
Yes. So where were you last night, and when did you last see Pierre?
Oh, well, let me think. Well, the last time I saw him, probably I was going up to the studio. We had some disregarded fabric, so I went to collect that because we like to reuse things. But he just had this huge blazing row with Fabian, not Fabian. I keep going to say it wrong, darling. I'm so sorry. With Fabian, and so Karen had just taken him aside basically to put him in his place about his behaviour. Pierre, that is, by the way. And then I got the material. I went through the fire exit.
Yes.
I dropped it off at the studio in Old Compton Street, and I went home.
Okay, and so you did all of that. And what time was it that you left 180 Strand?
Oh, goodness. Darling, does it look like I wear a watch? Well, roughly.
Well, you have a phone on you.
Yes, but I'm not checking. I'm not going, this is the time I'm leaving. No, but, okay, roughly 11:15 p.m.
Roughly. So could be 11:15, could be 3 in the afternoon then, just
Inspector,
roughly.
I'm giving you what I have.
It was dark outside when you left?
It was dark, yes. There were foxes out.
There we are. It's London again, that could be any time. But it was dark outside approximately around 11:15. Leaving. My word, what a way to start off. Okay, so detectives at home, I can see people are doing it already, but start putting your questions into the comment section now. But let's go over to D.I. Letworth. So D.I. Letworth, any questions for Bryony Hughes?
Well,
okay.
How come you went down the fire exit to leave? Why?
So there's a few stairs going up to the studio, but basically if you leave the back way, there's less stairs, so the fire exit's quicker. I'm just lazy. I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay, interesting.
Thank you.
You mentioned something about Milan. What happened?
Oh, darling, I'm sure Fabian would love to tell you the story. All I will say for now is the boy had a wonderful trip, didn't you, darling?
That's a nonsense. I wish not to speak anything about Milan. Terrible, terrible city.
I can certainly agree it was very memorable.
Oh, it was beautiful. Best thing I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, so don't worry, we'll have an opportunity to find out about the Milan incident better when we speak to Fabian Zaine later on.
Fabian Zaine inspector.
Oh my goodness me.
My word, I should have just stuck with the murder down on Trafalgar Square instead. Okay, back to you, D.I. Letworth.
Oh gosh, what else? How long is the contract to supply the fabric to Pierre's line?
I don't believe it has an end date, to be honest. We're just kind of on a rolling contract. He's never been disappointed, so it just keeps going. Any other questions, Inspector?
That's all I have.
Thank you.
So I'll go over to the comment section. There's not a huge amount in the comment section
Okay.
either so far, but we'll see what we can get. David Mears is not one for Bryony. We do just want to double check this. Karen Clapp, you're still awake, right?
Oh, she's awake. Look
Yes,
at her. She's on the ball.
There we are. She's just in security mode. She hasn't fallen asleep, and her internet connection hasn't gone yet, fortunately. So let's go to questions. We'll start with Anne-Marie Grosen-Nock. You said that Pierre was half blind. How did Pierre cope with the high demand of the fashion world with his limited eyesight?
Okay, so I've probably been a little bit dramatic when I say he's half blind, but what I'm trying to say is his eyesight was waning. It was leaving him. I was there by his side. I would help him make his choices. I would help him with things like that. So basically, he depended on me. What can I say? He depended on me.
Bethia Atkinson wants to know, did Pierre often work late into the night? Was this an unusual thing for him?
Oh, no, darling. In the fashion world, we work all hours. There's no night, there's no day. We just work when we need to. So the answer to your question is yes, he would work late.
Okay, so it's quite common practice there. You can do it too. Wants to know, that's a genuine name. Why did he need a person to bring a coffee when he had a coffee machine upstairs? So from speaking to him, the guy who delivers the coffee, he prefers it from someone else to make it. But as Bryony said, you can't get it all the time in that area.
No, not after 10 p.m. anyway.
So with that, obviously, it was just some guy liked to bring him a very fancy espresso. It was very nice, actually. I had it instead. Yes. So there you are. Just to clarify, there was no poison involved there.
I'm glad that you're drinking a dead man's espresso.
Well, it was going to go cold. The Pandemics wants to know, did you often use your mother's haberdashery for supplies, Bryony? So for your personal projects, I'm guessing.
Personal projects? Yes, I mean, if I was making something for myself, then of course I would use my mother's haberdashery. I mean, what else would I use? It's a family business.
Okay. Ula Pritchard wants to know, did Pierre tell you where he got his inspiration for the show from? So you said he was inspired to come back into the industry. Did he mention where from?
You know, he was a very private man when it came to his inspiration, so I would never have been allowed to know where he'd got it from. He just told me that he felt incredibly inspired one day.
Okay, so it seems like, again, he wasn't going to tell anyone. And then I'm just going to take this last one to see if you would know about this. I'm guessing you're the only one who might, but then you probably won't know. Just Bethia Atkinson was asking about Pierre's finances.
Oh, goodness, no. When I say we work closely together, I mean it's very much I am his eyes, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I know the man's going blind, but I was his eyes, but I wasn't in his finances.
Okay. Just had a few come in before we move on to our next suspect, just because these are just quick sort of yes and no ones.
Yes.
Nutwood Products. Bryony, were you sleeping with Christian Clone?
No.
No, there we are.
Ew.
What?
I'm just reading verbatim.
Sick.
I'm just reading verbatim.
That would be decidedly unprofessional.
Yes, again, I was just reading verbatim. Anne-Marie Grosen-Nock, were they Bryony's scissors that stabbed Pierre? I don't think they were. I believe they were some of Pierre's personal scissors, from what I saw.
Correct.
It had
How rude.
Yes,
My
they had
goodness.
PC engraved into the side of them. Then, what was the last one I saw there? Cleo Chalk, what were your ambitions for the future? Your career ambitions?
Personal ambitions? Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, I mean, I wanted to work my way up. That's why I started working for Pierre, in the first place. One day I'd love to be a designer, but I'm the first to admit I'm nowhere there near yet,
Okay. And, there's a clerical one, but this is more, I can tell you, it's more for me. Gary Pete wants confirmation, why was the corset made of... Oh, actually, no, it's a why. Do you know why the corset was made of disinfectant wipes?
I mean, honestly, I'm not sure. I wasn't there when he made the corset, and as I say, he's not great with his eyes, so it could just be personal choice. Who knows?
Yes, it's Fashion Week, Gary. I don't understand any of it. So I think let's move on to our next suspect. So we've been through Bryony Hughes. Would you like to speak to the head of security, Karen, our model, Fabian Zaine, or our rival designer, Christian Clone?
Oh my
I'd
god.
like to speak to Christian Clone, please.
You want to speak to Christian Clone? Yes, let's avoid speaking to Fabian for as long as possible.
Fabian,
Very strongly advised.
Inspector,
Yes.
I will lose my cool.
What? I don't speak fashion. Sorry. So let's go on to Christian Clone. So, as a a rival designer back years ago when you were coming up onto the scene, how do you feel about the fact that Pierre Couture's back in the running, another rival to go up against?
Frankly, I was surprised as anybody. I mean, he said that he wanted it out of the fashion world completely.
Yes.
At one time, he said it wasn't for him anymore. He wanted to pursue other directions in his life, but times change, I guess, and people change as well.
Well, I mean, Christian, out of anybody here, I mean, you had the most to gain when Pierre disappeared the first time. I mean, Inspector Christian was making a big impact when he came into the industry, and the only person getting in his way at the top was Pierre. I mean, at one time, they were neck and neck for headlining Fashion Week. You know, I mean, before Pierre disappeared, before, he was actually sort of booking studio space and hotels near to Christian, so we could keep a close eye on him, you know?
I think it was more than an eye he'd want to keep on Christian.
Sorry, Fabian, are you
Fabian?
implying something?
Not at all. Not at all. It's just a turn of phrase. I mean, after all, you're never going to hire me again, Christian, so I'm just here to stir the pot.
Yes.
Maybe your pot stirring is one of the reasons why I will not be hiring you again, Fabian.
Yes, I feel like you're just the little devil on my shoulder, Fabian, just turning up to irritate people every now and again. Christian, you said about how Karen was saying obviously you were fierce rivals there. Was there any sort of crossover? I don't know much about fashion, but any sort of crossover with your design styles then to sort of heat the competition?
No, our styles were as different as chalk and cheese. It all comes down to a very particular stitch that I often use and incorporate in my designs. It's actually one that my mother taught me when I was a child. It's sort of a family trademark, if you will.
Okay.
And I personally have always been very protective of that particular stitch. It means a lot to me, my brand and my reputation. So that particular stitch, I would normally keep it written down on under one of my pillows or in a safe, something like that. You know, considering my reputation as it stands, and my reputation means a great deal to me, it's not something, I keep it very closely guarded secret. So no, there's no way that Pierre could emulate what I do.
Okay. So it's nice, safe and sound. So going back to current day, with Fashion Week, how do you feel about Pierre taking the top spot? Because I know the last few years you've been the top spot in London Fashion Week. How do you feel that Pierre's come back and taken it off you?
Okay, well, that's news to me because Pierre does not, in fact, have the headline position in London Fashion Week. That is my position, my studio, my designs. I offered it to Pierre. I was happy to step back, but for some reason, he wanted the penultimate placing.
Well, sorry.
Oh, pot stirrer's
Again,
back.
Inspector Fabian, I just wanted to say, but it's because Christian, and I can't believe you didn't see this before, he's stolen your entire collection. And by going penultimate, you can't do anything about it until it's too late. I don't know what happened between them, Inspector, but when Pierre, the great Pierre Couture, came back, he came back with a vengeance.
Okay, you know what, Fabian, I'm sorry.
Someone slap him, please.
Unlike certain other individuals I could mention here, I have a very, very strong emphasis placed on professionalism. And the way that you continually insist on slandering myself, my good name, and that of Pierre is frankly disgusting. And, you know, why is that exactly, Fabian? Why do you keep doing this? Are you just trying to deflect attention away from yourself, or is it just the fact that perhaps you've got so much venom and poison built up in that nasty little mind of yours, you need to spit it out like a little cobra?
Oh, that's
sorry.
I thought
is
that
there a Fabian here?
Yes.
I thought there was only a Fabian.
My word. Oh god, I thought it was going in a nice direction there. I thought we were going to have a little sort of therapy group bonding moment. No, throwing poison vial at everyone. Right. I've just got one last one for you, Kristen, before I pass over to the detectives at home. And also, just a side note, detectives playing at home, you can see that our moderators back at Moonstone HQ have been keeping an eye out for this. If you have anything that is sort of a conclusion or you've spotted a major clue point, don't just stick it in the comment section because it ruins the fun for everyone else. Keep your conclusions until the end, but questions, put them in the comment section. So don't be offended if our moderators delete something. It's just because we're worried that it will spoil the fun for everyone else. And remember as well, it doesn't mean that it's correct what you've put in. So don't go thinking that either if you've seen it before it was deleted. Sorry about that. Christian, back to you. Where were you yesterday evening?
So I had my rehearsal prior to Pierre's. Was running between 8 and 9 p.m. Went rather smoothly, so we did actually manage to finish within our time frame, which is, you know, great. After that, I returned to the studio. I tend to work late in my studio. As Bryony mentioned earlier, we work all sorts of hours. I did pop out for a coffee at one stage, but unfortunately, I'm very sorry, Detective, I can't give you a time exactly when that was. I'd say check the CCTV to confirm it, but CCTV's been down. But I know for a fact that I did leave around 2 a.m. I went home, and that should be on the tapes, right?
I'm pretty sure that was on the tape. I think I did see you leave it around 2, but like I said, it doesn't fall within the time of death period. So that's everything on my end. Let's go over to our detective, D.I. Lapworth. Do you have any questions for Christian Clone?
I do. So we've obviously heard that there could or could not be some history between Pierre and Christian. What is the actual truth? What's happened before, and what was your relationship like now?
Our relationship was always, to be honest, very strictly professional. Cordial, or as cordial as this business allows. We were rivals after all, but we, like I say, we kept it professional.
Always.
I
have a question regarding your coffee.
Oh, really? If you're asking, then you are an angel. I take a flat white with 2 sugars, please.
Oh my god.
I'm very bad at making coffee. So you said that you went for a coffee, but this was at 10 p.m. was that? So
again, I can't say exactly the time. May have been just after 9. I know it was before 2 a.m. anyway, because that's when I left. But
so I'm only saying this because we've already established that the coffee is a sort of a thing where we don't necessarily have that in the late hours. So I'm wondering where you sourced your coffee.
Now, this is an embarrassment. It's very embarrassing for somebody working in high fashion. So I do apologize, and please don't take this as anything against my reputation or my standards, which are very high. I did have to go to a McDonald's. I'm sorry, I had to go to a McDonald's. I needed a coffee. I needed a coffee. If you need a coffee, you go where you can get it, okay? And I didn't want to use Pierre's machine. I went to McDonald's. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Christian, how far you've
Disgusting.
fallen.
Fabian, can I just point out, nobody could fall as far as you, my dear.
Oh, at least you said your name right.
Yes, at least he's finally addressing who was actually
Right.
in the room.
Since when did you two start teaming up? You were the most.
Sorry.
Right. Let's go back again to D.I. Lapworth.
There seems to be a big gap. So your rehearsal finished at 9, and you ended up going home at 2. There is a lot of time elapsed there. If your rehearsal went as well as you say it did, what did you need to do to...
See, the work of a fashion designer is never really done. Bryony will be able to back me up on this. Given the kind of hours she used to work with Pierre. There's always little tweaks that need to be made to costumes last minute. So I wanted to adjust the hems on some of the skirts. I wanted to adjust the fit on some of the trousers. It's a lot. And to be honest, I don't really want to go into detail exactly because we'll be here all evening.
I hate to say it, that's probably true, unfortunately.
But as a designer, you don't have people to do that for you. You do that yourself, do you?
No, I do my own designs. I take pride in the fact that I do my own designs. I take advice occasionally from people under me, other people in my department. I encourage it, but no, most of my design work is my own.
That's all I've got.
Okay, let's go over to the comments section then. Let's see. Sorry, a few people were very shocked by the fact that you got a coffee at McDonald's. So
is this on public record?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, apologies about that, detectives at home. I don't know what happened. It seems that the mice from a few weeks ago have decided to get back in and started playing with the internet, but hopefully we should be back and running again. So let's just go back onto the comments section again. So Bethia Atkinson wants to know, Christian, what happened between you and Fabian?
Fabian.
No.
Fabian. You know, I think that particular story is so much funnier when Fabian tells it. Straight from the lion's mouth, as it were. But I can tell you, you were in for a treat.
Okay, so we'll hold off again. We'll find out what happened to Fabian in Milan when we speak to Fabian. Sarah Mather wants to know if there was any truth in the rumours about you and Pierre being lovers.
Okay, this is something that is personally I find. All right, let me demonstrate. Detective, you're a detective, aren't you? Means you work in the police?
Are you referring to myself or DI Lapworth?
Yes, you.
Okay, yes, right. Well,
You,
actually,
Inspector.
I'm a private inspector, but
you
yes,
work-
I
you
work
work with the
alongside
police.
the police. Yes, I'm like a
So
modern day Sherlock.
therefore,
Yes.
because you are a police, you work with police, you're an investigator. I assume that means most of what you do is eating donuts,
Yes.
drinking coffee in a car.
Yes.
Not from McDonald's.
You see
Not
what I'm
from
saying?
Yes, I get
Not
what you
from
mean.
McDonald's. You see
Yes.
what I'm saying?
So
There's
it's-
certain
it's-
stereotypes that get attached to a fashion designer, which I personally find offensive.
Okay, so there we are. Sarah made there's your answer, I think. David Mears. Oh, Inspector, is anyone aware if Pierre's collection has been checked to see if it contains Christian Clone's trademark signature stitch prior to it going missing? The answer is no, because we don't know where it is. So I can't confirm on that one. Let's see. Sanjaya Srikumar wants to know, were Christian and Pierre's studios near one another? I believe you guys were next to each other on 180 Strand, or you were at least nearby.
Yeah, we were. We
Yes.
were.
Jenny Wren 01, his story is coming apart at the seams. Well, I'm well done. Week 11, Jenny Wren. You're still popping out the puns along the way.
I'm seriously.
hilarious.
It's, okay. Santai Shrikuma again. How late did Christian work and did not hear anything from Pierre's studio last night? So to confirm, Christian Clone was in his studio until 2 a.m. Did you hear anything?
No. I listen. I normally have a headset on when I'm working. The music helps me to focus.
Okay.
Sorry.
There we are. Let's have a look. A few people telling me that it's frozen. Badgers eating the cables. No, there's no badgers. Don't worry, it's fine. What is D.I. No, I'm not gonna. What is D.I. Lapworth drinking? I'm presuming water. Yeah, hence a big bottle of water. Sorry,
That could be important to the case, Inspector.
Again, it's after many cases of Moonstone murders, Live-ish, D.I. Lapworth. These are the hard-hitting questions that my detective team at home like to go for. What are you
I
drinking?
can confirm it's not McDonald's coffee. I wouldn't sink that low.
Oh, thank goodness.
Very good, DI. Very good.
This is you spend half an hour with people in the fashion world, you become one of them. It's dangerous. That's not a Bethany Atkinson discussing his friend. Right, that was right. Cinderella was last week. I'm not going to ask the question because remember, as out of respect, detectives who've been on the case with me for quite a while, people who have just joined the case this week, have no idea what you're referring to. If you want to know what you're referring to with Mice and Magic, you want to go to last week, Bippity Boppity Buried. Shameless plug. Right, I think we haven't got any questions though for the meantime, so let's move on to our next suspect. Would you like to question Fabian Zaine or Karen Clapp?
I'll go for Fabian, please.
You want to go for...
Excellent, DI, please.
You want to go for Fabian. And as he didn't correct you, we now know for a fact his name is actually Fabian, not Fabian. So, Fabian. If you could...
Hello.
Oh, he's actually confirming it. Fabian. Fab me old mate. If you could explain to us then a little bit more about the Milan incident. For any detectives
No,
at home.
I will not.
I think
Inspector.
for any of the detectives who haven't seen the YouTube video.
No, I simply...
Oh, go
will
on. No.
No, Milan is a non-existent city in a non-existent country.
Oh my God.
Well, you know, Inspector, if Fabian isn't willing to provide the nitty-gritty details of what happened in Milan, I personally am more than happy to,
Oh,
given the fact that Fabian, this man right here, cost me my entire autumn collection of menswear.
Really?
Didn't you, Fabian? Didn't you? You know what? I will say fashion models work very, very hard, but generally on the day, one job you have to do, Fabian, one job, and that is to walk in a straight line. And I know it sounds like a complicated task, but you have to walk from a straight line from the curtain to the front of the runway and then back again. Somehow, he managed to screw that up. Trips over his own feet, goes off the stage, and lands right into the chest of Anna Wintour. You know, I'm still sending gift baskets to her every month because of that flop. Otherwise, I'm going to end up on the Vogue blacklist.
Well, you could have saved yourself an entire couple of years' worth supply of muffin baskets, Christian, because she actually rather enjoyed it. And since it's out in the open now, Inspector, well, I tripped up because of Christian's own signature design mark to have tassel, flare, seam finishes on the trousers of his collection. I don't know why he chose that, but one doesn't question a great designer. Anyway, since then, it's been rather tough for the Zaine clan. I've rather fallen on hard times. But the great Pierre Couture was so kind enough to let me back, to allow me to strut on the runway once again.
Not tonight, seeing as Pierre fired you after your little reprise of the Milan incident yesterday.
Christian, again, you're speaking utter nonsense. Go back to McDonald's and think about what you're saying.
It was one McDonald's coffee, it was one.
Fabian, that's completely out of order. I saw the whole thing from my booth. I mean, it was less blue steel and more blooming useless. I mean, it was the last thing CCTV captured. And, I mean, honestly, if it wasn't company footage, I'd be half tempted to sell it to the Sun online. I mean, it was priceless, Inspector, priceless. And as for the slanging match that followed, well, that could be heard right the way down the Strand.
Inspector, allow me to clarify. Yes, indeed, we had this slanging match. Thank you for actually inputting, Karen. But
Pleasure.
Pierre, he is a passionate man, as I'm sure Christian would be able to testify to. And when somebody is so passionate, they build a lot of feelings inside themselves. You would understand this, Jonathan, wouldn't you?
Yes, it's very dramatic. I feel like I'm at the RSC.
Well, if you don't believe me, for example, two days ago, this Pierre, the great Pierre Couture, we were having another slanging match. I rather like that term, slanging match. It was about some corsets that was like made out of sandpaper. It just felt so uncomfortable to wear. And I simply suggested to change the shoddy material, and well, he blew his top. Bryony, dear Bryony, can testify to this. She actually had a brilliant replacement, cotton soft strips. Fantastic. Well done, Bryony.
Thank you.
Commendation to you. But after he got it out of his system, well, Pierre retired to his studio and spent all night working on this corset. However, what happened next, Inspector, I simply will never be able to explain. Why he made this corset out of pledge wipes, I never, ever will be able to answer that. However, I can rest easy knowing that all of his designs go past his buyers before they go out into the shops. So that design will never, ever see the light of day.
No, Fabian, I should probably just say, the reason he probably went with the pledge wet wipes, which, God forbid, if I had been there, would never have happened, is because I wasn't there. So I wasn't there to be able to say, darling, they're wet wipes. He couldn't distinguish between things, could he, the poor man? I know, but I've no idea where he got the design from the tassels from, that you poor thing, yes, and when you tripped over, that's the excuse that you're going to do. Yes, the tassels. Yes. The tassels, darling, that's how we say it.
Back to the point at hand.
No, darling, I don't think you understand. I don't know where he got the original pattern design from.
Well, I would allow me to shed light on something.
Right, strap in. This is going to take a while. Yep.
Here we go.
Certainly is not. I'm just going to say these tassel flared seam finishes.
Oh.
Where have we heard that before, ladies and gentlemen? From Christian. I don't know
You
if
done?
you can join up the dots, but I certainly can.
I don't know if anyone's still awake, but I'm certainly struggling. So let's just try and get this now nice and quick. Fabian, when was the last time that you saw Pierre?
Oh, well, it would be after this slanging match. Round about, I'd say, 5 to 10, 10 to 10. And then I retired to my dressing room, calmed down, did some Zen meditation, very good for your mind,
Yes.
I do recommend. And, well, then I let myself out to home.
Okay.
And I've got a little secret for you, Inspector.
It better be a good one.
Can you keep it?
No, again, we're not doing pantomime. That was last week. Bippity boppity berry. Click on bippity boppity berry.
Sorry,
Yes.
Inspector. Sorry, Inspector. I'll carry on. Right.
Yes.
I could have sworn as I left, I could hear young Christian crying to himself.
Okay, first of all, it's not young Christian. I am older than you, and apparently much more mature. Secondly,
Doesn't take
I
much.
don't cry. You must have mistaken me for somebody else, Fabian. As a person, I'm very introverted. I don't express my emotions. I actually have a filter, unlike somebody else I can mention. And you know what? If I was crying, it was probably because of the floral arrangement somebody decided to use on my runway. By the way, it's just... Anyway, I said I wasn't there after the rehearsal.
Oh, okay, right. I think that's it now. That was an adventure and a half. So I think I'm going to pass it over to D.I. Lapworth. Any questions for Fabian Zaine?
Fabian, can you keep answers to maybe 10 words max, or
Sure thing. For you, DI, anything. For you,
He'll still make it 4
Let you
minutes
go.
long in response, but let's try and keep it short, Fabian.
So, what time did you go home? You say you went home, but what time?
10:30. I do believe I said that. 10:30.
And what was my other question? Nobody else wants to hire you, apparently, according to everybody else. So why would Pierre?
Well, Pierre was giving me another chance. He saw the spark in the little boy that I am, and I don't know. He gave me a chance, DI.
Any reason why, particularly? You haven't got
because I'm a fantastic runway model, one of the best ever, I would say.
Oh, is that why you've been fired, darling?
I have not been fired. I will be walking this evening.
Oh, well, I'm sure, but down the street.
You could say that Fabian really flies down the runway.
Brilliant.
I will
Okay.
not have this
All right.
plan,
All
Inspector.
right. It's like
So there's not been a relationship at all there?
No, not with the great Pierre Couture, no.
No, Pierre has standards.
He doesn't go to McDonald's.
Were you with anybody when you were leaving home, leaving to go home?
Leaving to go home? No, I am living on my own at the moment.
Shame. Okay, that's all I've got.
Thank you.
There we go. Let's move over to the comments section then. Let's see. Beth Atkins said, "How does Christian know about Fabian being fired?" I presume this argument they had. I'll do this as a general for all of the suspects. All three of you, not including Fabian, so all three of you heard the argument last night.
Yes, darling, it was loud.
Yes,
Very hard to miss.
as said, the shouting match went halfway down the Strand, so that's where that came from. Let's see. Sands, what time last night was Fabian fired? The sounds of it was just before 10 o'clock that happened. Sarah Mather, who is Anna Wintour? I don't know who Anna Wintour is, but Anna Wintour is the editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine. I don't know much about the fashion world, but she's very influential. She looks a little bit like a stretched-out version of Edna Mode from The Incredibles, if anyone's a little bit stuck for reference.
Goodness.
Sorry, I don't speak fashion world. I speak general public reference there.
No, darling, it's just rude.
It's just honest. So yes, that's the person whose chest Fabian Zaine fell into when he tripped over his own foot in Milan. Not a good person to fall into.
That's all.
Yes. Emma T, did Fabian meet anyone on his way home?
No, I didn't.
Well, there we are. Bit of a short-lived answer. David Mears, any chance the pledge wipes were just in case someone tripped again, and at least this time they would clean the floor whilst making a spectacle? So I think it was a rhetorical
question or a witty comment.
Turns out I thought it was leading to a question. Turns out it was just a rhetorical joke. Megan Guest, Fabian's gaydar is on top form. There we are. Take the compliment.
Thank you.
Who is Chris? No, we've been through that. I'm going to really, really regret this, but Lauren Shotton, what makes you one of the best runway models?
Oh, darling.
Short answer.
Lauren,
Really?
I have
Really?
such a fantastic flair. I'm very colourfully aligned. My nickname, the Blue Steel, came before my purple phase. I thought I would reinvent myself. I'm sorry, Inspector. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yes, and I think you've gone too far. We'll call it you've gone past the finish line. I think we're sorted there. The Pandemics wants to know, how did you feel about wearing the tassels again for Pierre after what happened when you wore them in Milan for Christian?
Well, I thought I would be able to get past this little incident. Turns out those tassels are, well, worse than anything I have ever encountered before.
Sam Moore, no, I'm not going to ask that, Sam Moore. I'm going to remove your question. Remember, anything that is a theory, I'm not going to take. You can ask a general question, but that seems too much of a conclusion theory for me. Anna-Marie Grosvenor-Knock, where is your dressing room? Is it near Pierre's study?
Near Pierre's study? No, it's study is above. I'm on the ground floor near the stage.
Okay.
It's a studio, by the way, Fabian. It's called a studio. I know you get confused by words longer than 2 syllables, but it's a studio.
That's true.
And it's
How quick was your coffee at McDonald's?
Okay, I'm just going to go
They
with
are very professional. It is still coffee. That's all that matters.
Okay, we're going to do these last ones, then we're going to move on to our last suspect. Just Sands wants to know, was the corset made of pledge wipes or baby wipes? It was made of pledge disinfectant wet wipes, which is what wiped off the fingerprints. And then Nutwood Products, can anyone confirm where Christian was between 10 and 2? I'm afraid no one can confirm from what I said. No one can confirm, I'm afraid, on that one. And sort of
I confirmed.
You confirmed. I mean, other people. I mean, other people. No one can really confirm where most of our suspects were. There's at least some window missing during the time of death. That's why they're called suspects. So let's move on. Unless D.I. Lapworth has any other questions for Fabian, I think, should we move on to our last suspect?
Can we please? Yeah.
Yes, let's move away. Karen, please keep your answers. Unfortunately, as head of security, you might keep your answers a little bit more to the point.
Wake up now. You finished?
She did fall asleep. In true fashion of us.
You wanted a word?
Yes, a quick word with you, Karen. How well did you know Pierre Couture? Because I heard that you worked with him prior to becoming head of security at 180 Strand.
Absolutely. I mean, I knew Pierre really well. We met years and years ago when I was head of security at my sister's store just off Shaftesbury Avenue. I'd had cause for rugby tackle, a shoplifter to the ground, and well, no one wants an encounter with the Clapp. And, you know, we locked eyes and he hired me as his head of security. So I worked for him for many, many years, and he was kind enough to give me the contacts here. So I've ended up at 180 Strand. I mean, I looked after his reputation as well, Inspector, you know. I mean, once this internet surging and rumours online, he was a very private man. Even more so after that scandal broke with Julia Martinez and Donna Fucci. I mean, once their romance became public, I mean, it nearly ruined their careers, you know. I mean, you know, sadly, even though we live in and work in a fashion industry, there's still sadly homophobia around. And once the media gets hold of it, you know, it's bad for business.
Sorry, Inspector, I'd just like to say, Pierre was always saying how dedicated you are, Aunt, and professional, Karen, and that if you know, Inspector, if you would like me to do a character account for Karen, I absolutely would.
Oh, thank you, Bryony. I appreciate that. I think I've got it covered. Thank you.
Well, okay. You also had Pierre covered well enough last night, now, didn't you, Karen? Sorry, that was, you know, I know I say I'm professional, and I'm going to try and keep this professional, but I think I speak for everyone here when I say that your conduct last night during rehearsals was completely unprofessional and frankly outrageous. The way you were flirting with Pierre last night, I mean, you practically had him pinned to a wall with your tongue down his throat. I mean, you're a security guard. You know, there's a time and a place for everything, don't you think? But, and to be honest, I'd have thought that you would know as well as anyone else that you are so far from Pierre's type.
Sure.
Just, you know, come on, get
Christian,
it.
that is clearly absolutely nonsense. She would never do that.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you again, Bryony, for having my back.
Darling, it's fine.
I mean, there was no way I would be flirting with Pierre, Christian. I mean, I took him aside because I wanted to have a word with him about his behaviour after the slanging match, heated argument with that walking coat hanger there, after he tripped over his own trousers. I mean, you know, it was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, why he hired him, I don't know. But I calmed him down and we talked for a while and he was exhausted. So I took him back up to his studio and left him there as he got matters to attend to.
Yeah.
So I wasn't flirting. I was calming the situation down like a good security guard would do, you know?
Yes.
It's
And when
not
you
what it
took him,
looked like.
when you took him back up to the studio, that was the last time you saw Pierre.
Yeah.
And what time was this?
Suppose it must have been about 11:30. I mean, we were talking backstage for quite a while, and you know, he was in such a state. I didn't want him going back to the studio till he properly calmed down. I mean, I dropped him back up there, then I spent about an hour or so walking around, securing the area, had my break, walked around again, about 1 o'clock. Oh, then, Inspector, I had to go and sort out an issue with the floral decorations. I mean, some idiot had watered the plastic flowers. I mean, these creative types have got no common sense at all. I mean, honestly, I don't know what they're thinking, but any of the staff here could back me up.
Correct.
Okay. And you know I was going to mention this sooner or later. The CCTV footage, Karen. I am very confused as to how that happened because I watched it back and it stops at 9:55 p.m. and then all of a sudden resumes at 1:05 in the morning. So
Well,
that's 3 hours and 10 minutes have completely disappeared. What
Your
happened?
math is good, Inspector. I'm impressed. Well, I mean, I'm not one for this technical stuff. I'm more of a fists girl, you know. So as I understand it, there's some sort of like internet heaven called the cloud,
Yes.
and all the little bits go winging away. And I believe that our footage backs up sort of every 3 days or so, and it goes woo and sits on the little cloud. And I think my theory, and I could be a detective, is that it backed up and the Wi-Fi maybe went a bit, so it's probably whirling round our heads at this moment, lost sort of somewhere, trying to go
correct.
to the cloud, you know, internet space thingy somewhere. I mean, don't know. Whooped up, there's a bit.
Okay. Sorry, I'm confused at finishing in an alibi under 30 minutes after the last one. But let's go over to D.I. Lapworth. Any questions, put them in the comments section now. But D.I. Lapworth, over to you.
Okay, did you hear Christian crying? Fabian says he did, but did you hear that?
I didn't hear a thing, to be honest. I mean, as I say, I was doing my rounds. I mean, it was all so noisy. There's so much going on, like backstage anyway, and with the argument. And I was just, you know, concentrating on Pierre, so I didn't hear anything like that, no.
You also said you were securing the area. So if the area was secure, then how come, you know, the murder
area around the collections and backstage, we have to make sure that no one can get in and steal the designs and things like that. You know, it's such an important thing, London Fashion Week, that we can't have anybody coming in off the street and just having a little sneak preview, you know? I take it seriously. I like to walk the perimeter. I need one of them tigers.
So then who are you supposed to be? Because I seem to think that you were protecting Pierre.
I was head of security, and when he disappeared 6 years ago, I then became head of security at 180 Strand, which is where London Fashion Week held. So I am basically fashion security. But yeah, I was Pierre's personal one till 6 years ago, and now I'm head of security here.
And now he doesn't have a personal security person at all.
And not as far as I'm aware. No, I'm sure he'd have asked me back, but you know, it's just one collection. I can look after him while he's here.
As for the allegation made against you, kissing or whatever it is, what's the truth in that?
As I say, he was just very overwrought. You know, I didn't have him pinned against the wall. I was trying to make it, he was, well, I don't know what the word is, but he was overwrought. So I was just trying to calm him down, steady him down, you know, restrain him, but gently. But yeah, no tongues.
Clearly you've had a lasting relationship over the years. Has there ever been anything more than that before?
No, I mean, he's made me the odd frock now and again, but no, I mean, we just respect one another.
Okay. Can you think of anybody who would want to hurt him or steal his things or?
No, as I say, he's a very private man, you know, he kept himself to himself. He became more insular once the internet became more of a thing. So no, I mean, I wasn't aware he had any enemies. I'd have taken them out if I had.
That's all I've got.
Okay, let's go over to the comments section then. So, questions for Karen. I'm trying to just keep them just for Karen at the moment. It's just really Karen. I don't know what that's referring to. Tom Borner, what made Karen leave her last job? So just confirm for Tom Borner what your previous job was, to becoming the security guard, but that was working for Pierre, correct?
Absolutely, Tom. I've always been head of security. I was head of security for Pierre, and then I became head of security at 180 Strand 6 years ago.
So what made you leave working for Pierre?
Well, Pierre just disappeared from the fashion.
So it was on the it was because he disappeared.
What can I say? Didn't want to join the police.
That's fair enough. So MJ, so the last time Karen saw Pierre was 11:30. That's just a clarification question for your time.
Absolutely.
Let's have a look. Jack Borner thinks that you've got a disguise accent on at the moment. Where are you really from? Where are you from, Karen? Sure.
Oh, that's classified.
That was not the response I was expecting. There you are. The answer, Jack Borner, none of your business. So, Gary Pete, did Karen work at Bryony's mum's shop? Or what shop did you work for previously when you met Pierre?
I worked at my sister's shop just off Shaftesbury Avenue.
There we are. Someone was asking about the CCTV, if there were any... Gary Pete, any fingerprints on the CCTV equipment? I'll be honest, we haven't checked it, but who has access to the CCTV, Karen?
That's just me, really. It's in my little security booth. I mean, I left it unlocked when I went on my wander around during my break, but I thought the area was secure. So I don't know. I'd like to think I do my job properly. But...
Okay. So let's just double check a few. Shelly Bop's CCTV broke. The corset did it. I don't think an inanimate object killed Pierre Couture there, but Shelly Bop, so I admire you thinking outside the box. Let's have a look. Gary Pete in 11 weeks, there's never been a fingerprint. Linda Kemp, Gary Pete in 11 weeks, there's never been a fingerprint. I think, not Barry, Jonathan. I think Jonathan is allergic to the powder. No, I'll be honest with you, Linda Kemp. Again, 11 weeks, and not once have I had access to a proper fingerprint. It's incredibly inconvenient. And Jenny Wren, thank you for pointing out the pun that I missed. CCTV broke, course it did. Sorry, didn't spot that. By the looks of it, I can't actually see any more questions for Karen Clapp, but I'm going to open the floor up for a couple of minutes to everybody. So, D.I. Lapworth, any final questions that you have for any of the suspects you can ask now, and it's the same for people watching at home. Any questions for any of the suspects, it's open game now. What I ask, to suspects, Fabian, please make sure that you keep your answers to the point and short, and do remember as well, detectives, that suspects have been known to lie in previous investigations, so don't believe everything they're saying. But D.I. Lapworth, any questions you have for any of these suspects?
I have another one for Karen. Karen, did you see these people leave? The other suspects leave?
No, because I was tied up sorting Pierre out. I mean, all of their times, I was with him from about 10:15 till 11:30. I was with him a long time.
So you didn't see, like, Christian leave? He says that he left at 2 or...
No, and Fabian obviously didn't fall over on the way out, or I'd have noticed that.
Fabian, and I don't make a habit of... Anyway.
Okay, I've also got one for Christian. So you were listening to music.
Yeah.
But you still heard the row. Is that...
I think you might be getting your timelines confused. I heard the row downstairs during Pierre's rehearsal with Fabian, and after that I went to the studio. After that I did have my headphones on, couldn't hear anything else.
Okay, right.
If you're stuck for the minute, I can go over to the comment section and we can go back to you.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's fine. Gary Pete, Karen, how well do you know Bryony?
Well, I obviously know her because she worked with Pierre. Yeah, I mean, she's a lovely girl. I mean, she's got my back. As I say, we're quite close.
Yes, we're very close.
Lauren Shotton, I think this is aimed at Karen because it came through towards the end of yours. Do you enjoy your job, Karen?
Absolutely. The sense of power, you know what that's like, Inspector.
Yes, I do. It's great fun. The power. I have a special power, Karen. It's called the mute button. It's a wonderful power to have when you know it's there.
Well, I guess you use it on Fabian.
I really should have on reflection. But then if I did use it, he'd just tell the story again and it would take twice as long.
At least I actually have a voice.
Yes. Yes, we know you have a voice, Fabian. You've let us know. Lauren Shotton again. Rutherford, who designed your suit? It's sharp. It was a man called Perry, surname Mark. Perry Mark. So the treasure hunt's in London. How did Christian get back into the building with his Mackie D's coffee if Karen had secured the area? So how did you get back in, Christian, after you left?
Through the stage door. Stage door's always open. The techies like to go out and have a smoke.
Yeah.
Studio door, surely, Christian.
Stage door?
Studio.
What would you know?
No, are you...
Back door.
Are you
So
having some...
he went through the back door. Did Karen hear anyone leave? So Karen, just to confirm with any of the suspects, did you see any of them leave?
I didn't see any of them leave. I didn't hear any of them. It was just like I was just worried about Pierre, so I spent the time with him.
Okay. Ian Santry, what does your sister Shaftesbury Avenue shop sell?
All sorts of things. I mean, you know, they used to sell bolts of, I don't know, fabric and bits and pieces and just stuff, you know.
Okay. Let's have a look. I can't really... Geraldine Bailey was asking again, Christian, if your studio was near Pierre's. To confirm, their studios were near each other upstairs. Ula Pritchard, is the fire escape nearby to the dressing room / stage exit? I think there's more than one fire escape. Referring to the one I think Bryony took. Bryony, where was the fire escape in relation to the dressing room?
I mean, are we talking steps here? Are we talking seconds? Of
As
how long
in,
it
what
would
side? Were they on the same side of the building?
Well, yes-ish. I mean, they were probably, let's put it this way, they're about a 30-second walk from each other.
Okay.
Like around a little corner.
Okay. Let's have a look. The Martha A's, is there anything you disliked about Pierre, Karen?
No, I mean, he was always being kind to me. He gave me a job. He was just a lovely, lovely man. We'd have done anything for each other.
There we are. I will go back to check if D.I. Lapworth has any questions, and then I think we might call it there. So, D.I. Lapworth, any last questions?
Bryony, you seem to get on very well with Karen. What sort of relationship do you guys have? Obviously, you know each other in that professional capacity, but is there anything else going on there as well?
Karen is my, she's my auntie.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
That's believable. Okay.
Okay. Well, it is so. Okay.
I don't know how anyone was surprised by that, to be quite honest. But...
I mean,
I am. Am I?
Even I worked it out, Inspector.
Yes.
you'd take the credit, wouldn't you, Fabian?
Right. Any last questions, D.I. Lapworth?
I think I've got all I.
Okay, so it's a speak now for ever hold your peace situation here. So I think that's going to be it. I'm going to close the questioning session there. So, as said, we're looking for who killed Pierre Couture, but as well, we're looking for who stole Pierre Couture's priceless fashion collection. So it might be one person. One person might have committed the murder and stolen the collection. It might be two. It might be three. Hedge your bets. Say all four. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. Detectives at home, start writing your conclusions into the comments section now for who you think is the murderer and who stole the collection. But I'm going to save you a little bit of time once again. It's not me. It's not D.I. Lapworth. And it's definitely not suicide. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Thank you very much, detectives. There we are, and we're back. Thank you very much, detectives, for all your conclusions that came in there. It seems there's a nice little bit of a mix. So before we go over to the comments section, I just want to check. D.I. Letworth, do you have a conclusion?
I believe, yes, I do.
You believe? Do you believe you have a conclusion?
I do.
That's reassuring. So as you believe you have one, let's go to you first. So we'll do it in tow. I'm just going to ask you before an explanation, just to check. Who do you believe killed Pierre Couture?
Bryony.
You believe Bryony killed Pierre Couture, and who do you believe stole the collection?
Bryony.
So you think Bryony did both? You believe that she...
Excuse you.
You believe that Bryony did both. So why?
I also think that she was joined by Karen.
Okay, so you think they were working to... So it was actually Bryony and Karen, but it was Bryony who actually committed the crime. But why the two of them?
Because there is far more to their relationship than what seems to be. I think that it's very, very strange that Bryony would leave via the fire exit.
Mm-hmm.
It's very convenient that the CCTV has gone missing. And so therefore, I also think that with Bryony wanting to be aspiring to be the big designer, she could steal the collection for herself, so that can build her portfolio.
Okay.
Although having said that, Karen did also say she's much more of a hands-on fist girl, so maybe it was Karen who did the killing.
So you think... So although it seems that Bryony would be the person who would gain from it, Karen did it just because she fancied a fight.
And because she fancies Bryony.
Because she fancies Bryony?
Yeah, I think they're not auntie and niece. I think there's far more to it than that.
Well, this is sickening.
Okay.
I think I did just vomit in my mouth a little bit. I'm not going to...
Okay, well, you did say about homophobia in the fashion industry.
No,
but
there's homophobia and then there's incest. They're very different things.
There's a line.
What?
But
think
no,
I-
maybe, who
She's
knows?
her
Do you know what?
auntie.
Do you know what? In a few minutes' time, you might be bang on correct. Let's find out. But before we do, let's go over to the comment section and see if anyone's in agreement with you. Sue and Kyle didn't give a reason why. Maybe they do believe that it's their lovers and not niece and aunt as well. But they said Bryony and Karen conspired together to kill Pierre. Beth Ellen, Karen Clapp with a scissor said Bryony could have the collection. Sarah Mather, Bryony stole the collection with Auntie Karen's help, who she and wiped the CCTV to hide her thievery. Martin Dale again, Catherine and Bryony. Shelley Bops, Christian stole the collection as he said the designs were very similar. Jenny Wren, Karen and Bryony. Geraldine Bailey, Christian murdered Pierre and stole the collection as Pierre had stolen his designs. Barry thinks it was Bryony. Sarah Clone killed PC. Christian Clone killed Pierre Couture for revenge as he found out Pierre Couture used Fabian to sabotage his fashion show. A lot of again mainly going for Brian and Karen and the occasional Christian just being peppered in there. Shelley Bops, you just hedge your bets every week, don't you? Fabian killed him as he'd been fired and knew if it got out he'd never work as a model again. Nutwood Products again, Fabian stole the collection as a revenge and someone who's actually split them. So Nutwood Products, Fabian stole the collection as revenge for being fired and Karen killed him for snubbing her advances. Right, I'm just double checking there aren't any sort of surprise ones in there. Made the dress out of pledge wipes to ensure a clean getaway. Well done, Jack Brawley. Good pun. Okay, I think by the looks of it, other than David Mears saying that we should check Karen's hat for pledge wipes, I think everyone's sort of on a similar page there. Pretty much, it's mainly going for Bryony and Karen. Quite a few Christians clones being thrown in there. And again, we may have had about 2% of Fabian Zaine. So let's start. Let's start by recording the facts of the case again, detectives. So we're looking primarily for who killed Pierre Couture, who was discovered in his studio upstairs of 180 Strand this morning with a time of death between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. last night. Stabbed in the back with a pair of fabric scissors, fell into that corset made of pledge wipes, which wiped all of the fingerprints away. And not only had the fingerprints been wiped, the CCTV had conveniently been wiped between the time of death of 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. We're looking for who killed Pierre and who stole the collection. As said, there are two crimes that have been committed here. I think it's best we get rid of the stolen collection. Let's get that out of the way first. And I believe that only one suspect actually physically removed it out of the Strand, but there was another person helping them in the plot. I believe that Bryony and Karen were working together to steal Pierre's collection to prevent their little scheme being exposed. Considering Bryony had been working for Pierre for free, and she'd had all of these difficulties having to put up with being his assistant, she decided to take advantage of his eyesight issues to make her money's worth by swapping out Pierre's expensive fabrics in order for cheaper materials. I wouldn't be surprised along the way if you tried this with other designers. I only really had a feeling you might have been doing all of this when Christian Clone had mentioned how he had a roll of corduroy he ordered from your mother's shop that fell apart in his hands after you had delivered it, meaning it was probably nice in the shop, but the one that arrived was a completely different story. It worked rather nicely until you realised that Pierre had retailers who would examine the materials after the runway to demonstrate the quality of the products. As it's been seen by Fabian and Zaine, I had mentioned how uncomfortable most of them were. But a fact you really should have known, this is actually how it works in the fashion industry thanks to your auntie Karen Clapp. It became clear that you would have been exposed, so you hatched a plan for Karen to turn off the CCTV and distract Pierre long enough for Bryony to remove the collection from upstairs in Pierre's studio and take it back to your mother's haberdashery in Old Compton Street, which is the studio that you claimed. For anyone who doesn't know, anyone who's not outside London, just off Shaftesbury Avenue is Old Compton Street, so they're referring to the same shop there. And Karen's sister's shop, where she previously worked, I can presume, is Bryony's mother's haberdashery. There we are. That's who I think stole it, to prevent the fabrics being swapped out being exposed there. But it's not really why we're here at the end of the day, detectives. I want to know why one of these four suspects killed Pierre Couture. Now we know who stole the collection, and there's every chance Bryony or Karen could have killed Pierre off to guarantee their scheme would never be exposed, as well Bryony for being undermined by Pierre for so long, or Karen may have been spurned by those rejected advances. Then we also have Fabian, who was fired for falling over his own foot for the second time in a row this evening. Perhaps he just couldn't take the embarrassment any longer, and it was just pure revenge that it was not that Pierre Couture was going to make sure his career was over after he spent years trying to get back up into the business. But there is one suspect tonight that where our victim's demise or their death had a little bit more of a symbolic meaning, I think. Pierre Couture had been stabbed in the back, just as Christian Clone felt had been done to him by Pierre Couture. I believe that although in public their rivalry it was sort of raging and fueling, but their relationship was a little bit more complex than that. There have been a few comments of how Pierre wanted to keep more than an eye on Christian, Bryony saying how the media speculated how they may have been lovers, and Karen highlighted the scandal between Donna Fauci and Julia Martinez, and how homophobia is still rife in the fashion industry. But it was that sort of, what really made it click was Pierre made sure just before he disappeared that he was always in the next studio or hotel room to Christian as him. It's sort of where it clicked into place. The reason that Pierre probably disappeared from the industry all those years ago was that the two of you were in love. And Pierre chose to sacrifice his career in order for Christian to rise to the top. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs as to why your relationship broke down, but that's why he chose to disappear, because with the homophobia being rife, it could have ruined the career for both of you. He decided to take a step back. But when the relationship broke down and Pierre left, he didn't leave alone, though, did he? He swiped the unique design patterns that Christian had and decided to relaunch his own career with those sort of signature cross stitches that you slept with under your pillow in a safe, which unless you two were particularly close, he would never have been able to get anywhere near to. Although this stung for you, Christian, I understand it was salt rubbed in the wound yesterday evening, though, when you saw at Pierre's rehearsal, after you'd already agreed to be swapped, so you already agreed that you would remain the top spot and Pierre would go before you. When you realised that his collection was imitations of all of your signature designs, Pierre's runway just before yours would absolutely ruin him, as his copycat was going to be the one that would expose, and it would make you look like the copycat. When Fabian saw you crying, it wasn't the decorated flowers that caused hay fever. Karen had mentioned they're made out of plastic. They wouldn't have made a single bit of difference. But it was just heard a little bit too much. The man that you previously loved had not only left you, but he decided to ruin your career. You went up to that studio to confront Pierre, once you waited for Karen to take him upstairs, of course. Maybe you went to your studio first, which we know was next door. You didn't go to a coffee shop, as you claimed, because the coffee shops closed at 10 p.m. And by the sounds of the reactions to the fashion industry, you wouldn't be seen dead, even in the early hours of the morning, holding a McDonald's coffee cup. All it took really is once Pierre was alone, You took a pair of fabric scissors nearby his studio. You snuck up behind him and took revenge for all the pain he had caused you throughout these last years. It's not the cleanest of murders, but fortunately for when it came to keeping it clean, Pierre fell on a corset-made of pledge wipes, so it covered most of it up. It was just the fact that people just couldn't resist stirring this pot along the way that exposed it for me. Everything all right, Christian?
Inspector, I have a confession to make.
Oh, well, now
I did, in fact, I killed Pierre, but it wasn't planned. I didn't go back up to the studio with the intention of killing him. But you've made a mistake, Inspector. I didn't kill him over the collection. I could have forgiven him for that, as I'd forgive any of my rivals. In fact, I might have even been flattered that he respected my work in such a way. You know, that would have meant something. That would have really meant something. It was... Karen says she wasn't flirting with Pierre, but I saw the way Pierre was reacting to Karen, and Pierre was flirting with Karen. And I know me and Pierre had agreed that we were going to end it, and that was going to be it. And, you know, I'd reconciled that. I'd accepted that. That was fine. But to see him rubbing in my face like that, it hurt. It really hurt. And yes, I was crying. I said I don't cry easy. I'm not a man who cries easy. But who wouldn't? Who wouldn't, seeing something like that? So I went up to my studio and I was trying to think what I was going to say to him. You know, I didn't want to leave it like that. I wanted to talk to him so we could work something out. But when I went to speak to him, I told him I loved him. I told him I still wanted to be with him. I said we'd ended it too soon. We didn't have to end it like that. And to hell with the media, to hell with our reputations. And he laughed at me. He laughed in my face. He laughed in my face and he told me, not only didn't he not love me anymore, he didn't like me anymore. He said he hated me. He said he despised me and everything that I stood for. I wasn't trying to kill him when I picked up the scissors. I swear I wasn't trying to kill him. I wanted to hurt him. Maybe. I wanted to do something. I never intended to kill him, but I tripped. And he fell and... I'm sorry. Sorry, Pierre.
Well, detectives, it's odd after 11 weeks that this murder confession's taken a rather somber note there. But I'm just going to loosen the tension slightly because Jenny Wren 01, well, Pierre was a butthead. There we are.
He was a butthead.
There we are. I think the tension's been slightly eased out there. But thank you very much for your confession. And that does give me one very important thing to say. D.I. Lapworth, congratulations. You have somewhat successfully caught the killer. But you haven't caught the killer, but you did catch the thieves. So suspects give her a moderate round of applause. Well done. Have you enjoyed yourself this evening, D.I. Lapworth?
I have enjoyed myself. It's been very difficult, and that was hard and enjoyable.
Well, we're so glad that you've joined us this evening, and thank you very much for detectives at home for joining us again for another case of Moonstone Murders live, or live-ish. If you have enjoyed it, remember we have been Moonstone Murder Mysteries, and if you haven't, well, I would say you've been watching the government daily briefings, but they're not fantastic. As well as a token of appreciation, if you have enjoyed it, any donations, we really, really do appreciate. Completely free stream to watch, and we understand that times are tough for people. The link to donate, the Streamlabs link, can be found in the about part of this video, with 20% going towards the charity of the week, which is the Wessex Cancer Trust, so it's going towards a very good cause there. And if you haven't, just give us a like, give us a subscribe to our channel, tell people you enjoyed it, and again, if you hadn't, you've been watching the National Theatre Live. Keep it to yourself. We'll be back again next week, same time as always at 8:15 p.m. on Thursday, the 2nd of July, and I'm afraid it is my very last investigation. This will be the last case of Moonstone Murders live-ish, and we are heading back in time. We're going nice and classic to the 1920s for cyanide in the speakeasy. For now, stay safe, and we'll see you soon back on the case. Good night, detectives.